Hey, what's up? This is Wilson with Abysmal Hymns, and I have Reza Mills with me, and we are going to be going over an interesting list today. It's going to be the top five worst albums by artists we love. So, everybody, well, not everybody, but, mistakes can be made, and, sometimes things don't fly. For me, it's weird because I tend to like people's odd phases. Like I like New Wave Alice Cooper. I like Disco Kiss. I like hair metal Celtic Frost. Um, but there's sometimes where they take chances and it just doesn't stick. And I
Yeah.
think typically speaking, that's what's happening on most of mine. There's one on my list where it was like an album that was like a deal breaker, and it was like, you guys are totally uninspired and putting out garbage. See you later. Um, but most of the time, they're bands that, you know, it just didn't work. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought this would be a really fun topic actually, because as I mentioned at the end of last week's show, we like to spread the love, spread some positivity, but sometimes it's fun to hate as well. What's that Sheer Terror album? Just can't hate enough. Um, and that certainly seems applicable to at least one of my choices on this list. You know, people aren't perfect. You know, it's more often than not, even the best artist is going to release the odd turkey now and again. It's rare you can have a flawless discography, so it's to be expected. But I, as I say, there's only really maybe one, maybe two records on here that I really can't stand. The rest are I don't hate them, but they're just a bit meh. So it's going to be fun. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I would say three out of five of mine are artists that have lengthy discographies.
Yeah.
So they're bound, it's just kind of the odds, it's just a numbers game on that. Eventually the odds turn in their favor that they're not always going to hit it. But I mean, that to say, there are also a lot of artists that do have pretty flawless discographies for the most part. But and maybe we'll go over those another day. But
Sure.
right now we're going to dig into these and give us your first pick.
Okay, so a guy we touched upon last week. You saw him on this tour, I believe. I'm talking about David Bowie and Never Let Me Down. A very popular choice, well, unpopular, if you like, amongst a lot of critics. This still to this day gets a lot of negativity. Um, It's a strange album. I think it was his one, let me see, fourth album of the 80s, and he took quite a lengthy break after this one. My attitude with this record, I mean, I've listened to it a few times just in preparation for this show, has been that I don't hate it, and I think there are some cracking tunes on here. I really love Glass Spider as a song. I think that's a fantastic tune. I even like Day In, Day Out. Even Shining Star with that silly little rap thing that was he Mickey Rourke of all people does is okay. My biggest issue with it is, I suppose, it feels two problems. Number one, it doesn't feel terribly memorable, and that's not something you can say about Bowie very often. Like I listen to it, I think it's okay, but I struggle to remember anything about it. My other problem, well, another problem has been that some have criticised the production. Well, if you look at who's producing it, it's a guy called Dave Richards. Who's he worked with? Queen, Freddie Mercury. He's worked with those people. Of course, there's going to be a bombastic reaction. You know, this wasn't going to be like an SST spot style job. So, um, in total, I think maybe the criticism has been really overblown, but it's not. I guess, yeah, as I say, it's just not particularly memorable for me, but not anything to be embarrassed by either. So that's my first choice.
Right. So my theory about this album is you have to think about what he did right before this was released, which was the soundtrack to Labyrinth.
Sure.
And from there, if you kind of like say, well, this is an extension of those sessions,
Hmm.
it makes a lot of sense, particularly production. Like it almost sounds like the same production.
Yeah,
Um, Particularly with like the guitar tones and like where the vocals sit. Even though he comes forward in the vocals and the music fall in the background when you're watching the movie, when you listen to the soundtrack, it sounds a lot like this album.
right.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I even forgot about that silly rap. I was kind of repressing it, but I get it. It's like this. Although if I had to pick one of these two albums, for me it would be Black Tie White Noise.
Yeah.
I like less than this.
Right. Okay.
But it's a case really where even that album is not bad. It's just the bar has been raised so high. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, you're comparing this to, even if you compared it to Let's Dance,
Yeah.
which I mean, I think is probably one of his best albums, but it is still that pop production. And
Hmm.
this was a weird time period in the 80s. So I think that he was just kind of trying to survive because you think like even though it's a great record, Tonight didn't kind of live up to Let's Dance, even though that was the
Oh,
follow-up. Then this came after Tonight, and then we have the next album in the studios, Black Tie White Noise. So there was a huge gap
yeah.
from like 93 to 87.
Sure.
Granted, he did a tour there and, you know, stuff like that. But I think that, he was probably trying to figure out what was going on in this transition from the 80s to the 90s because he didn't really come back full swing till Outside,
Correct.
which we have Buddha of Suburbia wedged in between there, which I often even forget about that album. I need to probably
Sure.
listen to it more, but, I just kind of, to me, it felt more like a soundtrack. But yeah, so I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, I don't want people to go away thinking this is a total turkey of a record. There are a couple, as I say, I think Glass Spider is an amazing tune, but I just find it a little bit. I don't know, just not particularly interesting. And I listen to it, I think, yeah, it's fine. But then I go away afterwards and think, what did I just listen to? So, yeah, there you go.
What'd you think about the Iggy Pop covers?
It's okay. Yeah, yeah, I didn't mind it. I find it fairly perfunctory, I suppose the
Right.
word is. Like, it's not bad and it's not good. I wasn't like blown away by it, but it was okay. Uh,
Okay, I can see
does
that.
does
So,
does what it does. And also, don't forget, it was about 3 years since Tonight, and that was a bit of a patchy record in places too, mostly
yeah, but that
covers.
album sounds great production wise.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
go back and listen to it through headphones, though it's
sure.
weird, like I was listening to that this morning
Hmm.
and there's a lot of like dubby reggae stuff on there,
Okay, I'll have to
which I'd kind
go
of
back and
forgotten
give that a
about,
listen.
which is not my favorite genre, but I mean, I'm okay when he's doing it.
Sure.
But there's a fantastic Beach Boys cover on there.
Hmm.
And in fact, with Black Tie White Noise, I really like his cover. The Morrissey cover he does there was better than the original,
Cool.
so
All right.
how it goes. So yeah, so with mine, I'm gonna be less forgiving about it because this was a jarring transition. So like my pick is gonna be Trash by Alice Cooper.
Oh,
For
yes.
me, it felt like a betrayal.
Yeah, appropriately named, I have to say.
Right. It was, and some of the songs like Poison, that single I don't have a problem with. And there's a couple songs that I can live with.
Yeah.
Typically speaking, though, it just feels like a Alda Nova mess. Um, who's that? There's another big hit maker that was working with like Bon Jovi and Kiss,
Yeah.
um, whose name I've blocked from my
Uh,
consciousness.
yeah, I won't
But
say it.
but like that, kind of a Mutt Lang feel. And
Yeah.
he is disappointing because like it felt like that he would kind of made himself relevant again on Raise Your Fist and Yell because that album was so heavy.
Mm.
And I felt that he should have like pushed it in that metal direction.
Could have gone even thrash
Um,
or
Rather
something.
than going into hair metal, which I get he definitely influenced it, you know.
Sure.
I mean, I don't, there would not be a Guns N' Roses if it wasn't for Alice Cooper,
Mm.
but that doesn't mean you have to join them, you know.
No, of course. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like this record at
And
all.
I
I
have
mean,
nothing against Guns N' Roses, and I do like my fair share of hair metal.
sure.
Um, but I like it when there was the emphasis was on metal more than very poppy shit like Poison, you know.
Yeah, this record, I mean, yeah, I can't stand it, obviously. And I wouldn't maybe go as extreme as saying it's like White Snake, but in terms of production and just I feel like it's a blatant sellout.
Right, because he took the makeup off. To me,
Yeah, well, exactly.
that was
Yeah,
key.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And Kiss did a better job of being themselves with the makeup off than Alice Cooper did. Which is funny because on this tour it was business as usual, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, I saw him at least once on it, maybe twice.
Hmm.
Um, I want to say once because there was, yeah, I think some on this Operation Rock and Roll tour that was him, Judas Priest, Motorhead, and Dangerous Toys.
Right.
There's somebody else on the bill too. Metal Church, Metal Church. Um, but yeah,
Well, yeah, I don't, yeah, I don't have much to add on it really. I think it's a terrible record. I can understand why it sold a lot, and I can understand why, maybe people who weren't into Alice Cooper either were too young or weren't really aware of his 70s and the new wave stuff as well, would have been into this because it was manufactured,
right.
pun intended, to shift
I
units.
mean, it
And
was major label. He was,
yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, even with
everything.
David Bowie,
I mean,
those
the type.
guys have
Yeah,
bills to pay and they have
oh, of
record companies to pacify.
course.
Um, and I think that it's easier for them to have creative, you have to kind of look at the album before it
Yeah.
and see how that did sales wise. So I think that, like in the case of David Bowie and Alice Cooper, you could even throw him in there, even though Raise Your Fist and Yell was a great album.
Mm.
Um, if you're a heavy metal fan, that doesn't necessarily equate album sales.
No, no. Well, because it's a niche genre, for better or worse. Let's be
Right.
honest. Yeah.
Well, particularly then, particularly in that time period of the 80s, like if you weren't doing a Bon Jovi Poison thing, then you weren't going to be on the radio, that's for sure.
Yeah, pretty much. Or Skid Row or one of those people,
Right,
that
right.
kind of stuff. Yeah, it's not really my scene, but yeah, I get what you're saying. At least when Skid Row does it, you sort of think, yeah, fine. They started off out the gate doing that stuff. This is
Right,
Alice
but even
Cooper.
Skid Row had some balls to them at times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't, yeah, totally slick.
Right, right. Like on the Slave, I saw Slave to the Grind tour with Skid Row, and like that was a heavier album, and they even
Oh,
brought Pantera on the road.
fair enough. Yeah, yeah, fair
So, yeah.
play. Just felt a bit more authentic, I guess.
Yep, yep.
Cool. All right. Well, this next band, I don't know if they'll mean much to you necessarily, or whether they're on your radar at any point. But I'm talking about the Replacements, and the album is called All Shook Down. It was their final record in 1990. Now, those of you who don't know who the Replacements are, they started off. They're kind of contemporaries of Husker Du. Basically, they're from the same city, and they're kind of friendly rivals with them. They started off as this raggedy sort of, I don't know how to describe them, that sort of Johnny Thunders-esque sort of punk. They weren't really a hardcore band. They're more in that sort of vein. And they did some very, very good albums. Hootenanny, Let It Be, which is the massive one. Ramona Ryder was a huge fan. I think, in fact, one of her films, Heathers, I think it's called. I think the college is called Westerberg College or Westerberg University, named after Paul Westerberg, the front man. And at this stage, they just, it was 1990. I think they'd lost 4 years earlier a guy called Bob Stinson, who was like he brought the edge to the band. He was a bit unpredictable, but he got fired after the Tim album. They brought another guy in, and as time went on, they started to get slicker and slicker and slicker. And All Shook Down is just an incredibly boring AOR record. It's essentially a Paul Westerberg solo album. Chris Mars barely plays on it. Tommy Stimson like joined for about a week or something, and no bassists. It's just an absolute mess. It was just sort of like a revolving door. And you could tell by this stage that the band had completely disintegrated. There's maybe one good song on it, which is the opening song called Merry Go Round, which I like it. It's quite catchy, but it's just drags. It's really boring. It feels listless. It really is it's just the sound of a band utterly disintegrating. I mean, Sabbath cop a lot of flack for Never Say Die. That is like, um, Revolver compared to this one. I mean, this is a really, really boring record. It's just such a listless and bland way to finish what was a pretty darn good career. So for that reason, I decided to go with All Shook Down by the Replacements.
So the replacements for me, I always perceive them as being the kind of forerunners of like jangling indie rock.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, they never really clicked for me.
Sure. Some of
Um,
their earlier records, I think
and they're
I
too happy.
would like the first couple of albums because there's a bit of a more of an attitude.
But are they happy?
Hmm?
Are they happy?
Are they happy? No, not really. It's kind of a bit snottier, I would say, the
Okay.
first two albums. Yeah, they did get a little bit more, as you say, kind of what eventually the Lemonheads will go on to do. So
Right,
if you're
right.
not a fan of that style, then you're not necessarily going to gel with those. I got a soft spot for them, but even I can admit that this album is a complete catastrophe. So,
I mean, I know a lot of people that like them, so and
oh,
people
fair
respect
play.
Paul Westerberg, so maybe I'll go have to listen to their first album, see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't like his solo albums. I find them quite bland. But those early albums I still have a soft spot for. But this doesn't loom large. So I'd recommend people don't listen to this. It's just really bland. So there you go.
All right. So you brought up Black Sabbath earlier with Never
Ah,
Say Die, and I like that album.
I like it. Yeah.
Um, but this album I do not like. It is came out in the mid 90s. It's an album called Forbidden.
Oh.
I'm good with a lot of the Tony Martin stuff. Like I'm all right with Tear, and I'm okay with Headless Cross. I mean, those are about as close to like power metal as I typically get.
Hmm.
Um, but this album was, I mean, they had Ice-T rap on it,
Yeah.
which, is one of those things that like I wish just did not happen. And it's another case of where they were totally lost in the,
Mm.
I don't know if it was management, if it was Tony Iommi. They came off that run with Dio, and
Mm.
yeah, it was, Cross Purposes was a better album than this. Um, there just was not, and it's one of those cases where the thing about bands is it's very much about the chemistry.
Sure.
You just have Tony Iommi alone, and you don't have Bill Ward giving enough input, and you don't have, Bill Ward showing up, and there's no, you can't even say Dio or Ozzy because
No.
they've already shown you they're capable with Tony Martin at doing what they do.
Hmm.
I mean, to expect a Tony Martin album to sound like an Ozzy album is not going to happen.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was just a total creative misfire.
Yeah, everything about this record's bad. I mean, Ernie C produces it. I don't like
Yeah,
Body
I think that was probably a big
Take.
part of the problem.
It's a terrible job.
Yeah,
Uh,
it
I'm not
just
really.
sounds like shit.
It does. I'm not really
Which,
a.
Body Count to me, they're a terrible band.
Oh, they are. They're completely
They're
ridiculous.
like, At best, I mean, you could give them credit to being one of the early forerunners of new metal, but
No,
uh,
that
the novelty of what they do was better than the actual product.
I
So
agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, and also the album cover. Oh my God, that is appalling.
it looks like it should be airbrushed on the side of a van.
I know it's just so. It's like I mean I don't know what their finances are like were at that time. It's like, well, I'm guessing they weren't poor. I mean, can't you
No,
get someone slightly better? I mean, it's absolutely
it
pathetic. I'm
makes me a little more understanding of bands that use AI art.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it looks like the Mona Lisa in comparison to
No.
this. It's absolutely stupid. And
Mhm.
it's just really, really poor put together. I mean, you're a little bit more forgiving than me. I mean, I'm not really into the Tony Martin stuff. It's not really, I can't get past the keyboards and I find it a bit cheesy for my taste, but I can acknowledge he's a decent singer. And if you're into that sort of style, they do it very, very well. This was not done well. Those
Yes, I
albums.
always saw Tony Martin too as being kind of like their answer to David Coverdale.
Sure. Yep.
Um, and that kind of goes back into what we are talking about with Alice Cooper, that they were, trying to legitimize themselves and find a market.
Yeah. Sure.
When looking back, you have to think if you just stuck to doing what you were doing, if you had gotten heavier, it
Sure.
would have all worked out. Because just think of the bands that were like around that time trying to do it when you were trying to sound like Whitesnake. You had Candlemass, you had Solitude Aeternus, you had all these doom bands that were just starting to come up.
Yeah.
Trouble, all wanted to
Environment.
do Black Sabbath. Why don't you follow that? Say, listen, why don't I show these guys how it's done?
The Young Bucks. Yeah.
Instead, you wanted to be Whitesnake.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I mean, I guess you see, it's kind of like the thing with Spinal Tap, where they show up in the lobby of the hotel, and they're like, David Coverdale comes in. He's like, "Oh yeah, mate, we're playing the Enormo Dome across the street." So
Brilliant. Funnily enough, actually, they did get a little bit heavier because I actually quite like Dehumanizer,
yeah,
TV Crimes
yeah.
and stuff like. I
I
thought that
mean,
was a
but that's the
good
thing.
record.
Dio balanced it out.
Yeah, it was a good record.
Mhm.
Was it the best thing I've ever heard by him? No, of course not. But for 1992, that was a respectable record.
Yeah,
Yes, the cover art again was a bit not the best, but
but for '92,
yeah, it's like a video game type of thing.
yeah.
But musically that was okay. This ain't. It's
Mhm.
bad. It's a total turkey. So yeah.
All right,
I,
what you got?
all right. So I've waited to vent my fury on this record for quite a while now, and oh dear, I like REM. I like their early stuff. I think to me, they were like the Birds if they went post-punk. I thought they were really enigmatic and interesting. I thought Michael Stipe had an interesting way about him. I even like the two mainstream albums they did when they signed to Warner Brothers with Green and Out of Time. But I struggle to fathom why on earth anyone would like an album like Automatic for the People. I think it is just the biggest load of bloated AOR tosh I think I've ever heard. It's absolutely awful. And to this day, everybody hurts. Honestly, I'm going to sound really crude when I say this. It makes me want to shit blood, that song. It really is. Toe-curlingly awful. And that, oh, we're all hurting. Everybody hurts. It's just so trite and embarrassing. And, what happened, Michael? You went from this guy who was a bit weird and enigmatic to suddenly just these really awful cliches. And the music's really, it's kind of like, although I don't like you two, I see it as kind of a similar trajectory to a band like that went from, yeah, we're doing something a little bit more interesting to suddenly becoming this bloated stadium band with these anthems. I blame this album for Coldplay personally. I think it's that bad. Uh, do I say that in the sense of comparing it to the album that you just talked about with Black Sabbath? No, it's not in that sense that it's a bad album, like badly written or anything. There's just something about this, the way REM do it here, that just grates on me massively, and it's the sort of album that Rolling Stone would love. Let's put it that way. It's just so full of itself and self-important. I never want to hear it again. And it was at this point that I lost all interest in them because every other album after this, Monsters, fine, whatever. But the majority of their catalogue after this, I just think got increasingly worse. But this is a horrible record. I really can't stand it. I've never liked it. And honestly, I mean, Man on the Moon, oh, it's just so dumb. Some people will be listening to this and go, "Oh, well, what are you talking about, Reza? What about Shiny Happy People?" Yeah, okay, that was a goofy song, not exactly a brilliant tune, but it was kind of a bit sort of tongue in cheek and they were purposefully being a bit silly. So I kind of let them off that, but at least they weren't being pompous. This is just so full of itself and everything from the artwork, the presentation. Yeah, not for me, I'm afraid. So yeah, automatic for the people, REM.
So yeah, so you wouldn't take me as a big REM fan, but I
No,
am.
wouldn't have thought.
I will say, so I get why you don't like the singles. Like I can do without Everybody Hurts.
Oh,
Could stand to never hear Man on the Moon again.
yeah.
But I do like the song Drive,
Mhm.
and I like the song Sweetness Follows.
Right.
Um, I mean, obviously those are the two darkest songs on the album, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I get it. I think it was another case of we got record labels to please.
Mm,
I mean, I think the production on this album is good.
mm,
But yeah, I mean, I can go either way. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I remember when it
yeah.
came out, I listened to those two songs a lot, and I'm okay with of all the singles, I can live with Night Swimming.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I prefer Document and
Sure. Yeah.
Fables of the
Absolutely.
Reconstruction, and you know.
Reckoning and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like I love that song. What is it? West of the Fields. That song is awesome. The first, I mean, Reckoning,
I mean, it's like you go from a band that's doing songs like Camera, which is really moody and genuinely dark and haunting and beautiful. I've got no idea what he's talking about, and that's what I loved about it. Just to these awful trite cliches. Everybody hurts is whiny and oh, Michael, what happened? It's just like, and then from here, I think his activism started kicking in as well.
yeah,
So had a bit of the Bono about him, suddenly starting believing his own hype and his own self-importance. Maybe a tad. I don't want to slag off Peter Gabriel because I don't really have a problem with him per se, but he went through a similar thing as well, I think, with his activism. That sort of started to take over and he became very full of himself. And that's my biggest problem with this record. Monster, I don't hate because, they're trying to dabble with grunge. It's not brilliant, but I can live with it. But this record is just, oh dear, it's just really bland to me. It's really middle of the road and trite and cliched. So I ain't gonna be having it in my collection, that's for sure.
there you go. Yeah, but it reminded me I need to go back and listen to some of that old REM.
Sure. That was fabulous. I love those old records.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, for me, my next pick is I've been going in chronological order, so that means that yeah, I guess I'm having to jump up into the 2000s.
Hmm.
This sadly was the band's last album. It's a band that we've talked about, we both like, and this album just there was not a single song on it that I was really into. Fortunately, they didn't play hardly any of it when I saw them on tour, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Soul Invictus by Faith No More.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's it's just thankfully I haven't listened to it after.
It's weird with that record. I've listened to it and whilst I don't hate it, but I just listen to it and I'm like, it doesn't feel memorable. There's nothing about it that stands out. I'm just a bit, eh. there's maybe, as I put in my Facebook message to you, the only thing that I like is Jim Thirlwell did a really good remix of the song Motherfucker, and I like Fetus, so I enjoyed that. But apart from that, yeah, it's just really boring, and that's not something you can say about Faith No More particularly. So yeah, I'd be in total agreement with you there. It's just totally unmemorable and very forgettable. And the album cover's awful as well. I'm a big album art guy, as everyone will have gathered by now. So the album art just felt just not typical of what they do, and it's just terrible. Yeah, I can't agree enough with that one.
All right, what you got next?
Well, talking about Faith No More, that's my next choice. Albeit a record that is a little bit more disappointing than actively like hate, and it's King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, from 1995. I don't know what to say about this one. My biggest issue with it is that I feel like it's too long. There are some songs towards the end that I just feel are just totally superfluous and unnecessary. I really don't need to hear "Take This Bottle" again. It just goes on, and the song "King for a Day," um, "The Last to Know." It just those three songs just add nothing, in my opinion. Just a Man's Fine. It could have done with some serious editing, and also it misses Roddy's keyboards for a lot of it too. He for the main part. I think he's a very integral part of this band. And I think at this point they're all fairly busy with their own projects. So I think obviously you had was Billy Gould in that death metal band, what they call Baruhia. I think he
Yeah.
was involved with them at some point. And obviously Mike was doing the Bungle thing, and Roddy was doing Imperial Teen. So it felt like they had other things going on, and this was like an afterthought. Oh, we better get another record in. It's been 3 years now. And it just, whilst I don't hate it by any means, it's not, there's some good stuff on here, of course, it's Faith No More. There's also stuff, as I mentioned earlier, that just doesn't feel particularly memorable. I find it a little bit boring and it drags a bit. And there's not one moment on their previous four records that I feel that, even on an album as massive as The Real Thing, even the pop stuff on there I like. And this album just feels a bit tired to me. Again, not terrible, just a little bit disappointing for me. So, King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I get that perspective on it. It was a really more straightforward album as far as the mix goes. I think that was intentional.
Mm.
I think they were trying to fall into like a helmet direction with it, but went sideways with some of those show tunes. And but I like the heavy stuff. I like Cuckoo for Kaka.
Oh,
I like Ugly in the Morning.
yeah.
Uh,
Get Out.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, I
and
mean,
those songs kind of hit like where metal was at the time because you got that was like right when right after the first Korn album came out. So
yeah.
it was
I
big on the build up breakdown
yeah. Yeah,
stuff.
it's not by no means there's nothing to be embarrassed by, anything. We're not talking about that level. It just for me, it's well, Sol Invictus, whatever. I don't really count it, but their original incarnation. That's how much I don't like that record. But of their original incarnation, this is the one that just feels the most disappointing and just the
Right.
most.
I mean, there was a lot to live up to though because it came
Oh,
after Angel Dust.
Angel Dust, yeah, and they'd lost Jim Martin as well. Let's
Yeah.
not forget. I mean, I know they didn't like him, and he was obviously a bit of an oddball, but I do feel that he added something to that band. There was a uniqueness about that guy. And with no disrespect to Trey Spirant, he does a great job in Mr. Bungle. He doesn't really suit what they're going for. So yeah, just very, very middle of the road and unsatisfying for me. So
Cool. I'm gonna bust through mine kind of quick because so we don't
okay.
get zoomed. But so
Cool.
my next one is going to be an album by Iggy Pop,
Mhm.
which is totally suspect. It's called Free, and it's just boring jazz that he does spoken word over. So
I
sorry.
don't know that record.
Yeah,
I'm a
you don't
little,
want
a
to.
little bit.
But go listen to it just and you'll be like, this sounds like a damn aftershave commercial.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've just seen the description,
Don't
ambient.
let the smooth taste fool you.
Even the album cover looks pretty weak.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I remember an album coming out that he did called Avenue B and thinking that was a bit pretentious and silly. But this probably makes
I
that
mean
sound
this is
profound.
terrible.
Yeah. All right. I definitely won't be delving into this one anytime soon.
What you got? What's your last
All
pick?
right. My last pick is, I'm afraid to say, and you mentioned them earlier, helmet and size matters. I am one of those boring people. I think the original incarnation was fine, and they should have just he just should have just left the band alone. John Stanley is always going to be difficult to replace. I mean, that's a very unique lineup. Aftertaste out of all those first four albums was the one that I felt was just dipped slightly, but that is like an immense work of art compared to Size Matters, which the first time I heard it, I thought, what the fuck is this? Paige, what are you doing? It's just so weak. It's just trying to be ultra melodic, and it just feels so boring and middle of the road. None of the crunching, heavy metallic riffing that I was expecting, or even the variety of Betty. It just felt like an afterthought, an aftertaste, if you like. And yeah, originally this was going to be under the Project Gandhi, and it should have stayed that because this is rubbish. And I don't really like their reunion stuff, if I'm honest. Bits and pieces here and there, but this is a particularly bad record, and that title as well. I mean, really. Um, oh dear, yeah, I've got nothing else to say about this record. It's
I'm
just
sure I've
even
heard it. It just is once again
yeah.
was not memorable. I kind of stopped listening to them after Aftertaste. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're not missing much.
yeah.
There's a song on here called "See You Dead." It's bloody awful. It's really, really bad. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember they did go in a weird direction.
yeah, and
Like,
not weird in a good way either. Like on Betty, at least that was really good and funky and had something to it. They got nothing to it. It's just
right.
Paige just suddenly realizing he can make some money by reforming Helmet, and I'm like, no, mate, this is bad. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my last
You
choice.
should have played the hits. Played the hits.
For sure.
All right, so my last one's similar in the fact that it is just redundant and boring and ponderous. And it's a band that I used to really like, and this album was the one that made me say, "Oh God, no, thank you." Um, because I saw them play one of these songs just a few years ago, and so I'm talking about Tool's Fear Inoculum album. And
Hmm.
there was a song on here that just recycles the riff from Schism so much that I thought that that's what they were playing when I saw them do it live. And I was halfway into the song and I was wondering why he didn't go into the I know the pieces fit part. And I was like, oh no, this is a totally different song. Um, yeah, just, I mean, so disappointing. Such talented guys, and that's what they did.
I always tried to get into Tool, but I just could never gel with them. I always found them quite dull.
You might
Maybe,
like Undertow.
yeah, I mean, I quite liked, was it Opiate, that little
Okay.
EP?
Yeah,
I
Undertow is the
felt,
album after Opiate. I think you might like.
yeah, I thought it was a bit better, but I think as time went on, I was just like, yeah, it's just a bit boring. I don't know. It's just them trying to be King Crimson, but not doing anything that exciting with it. I can't vouch for this record because I haven't heard it, but they're not a
Right.
band that loom large. I will give Tool one thing though, that they took Failure out on tour,
Right.
and helped those guys out. And Failure are an amazing band, so I'll give them props for that. But yeah, they're not a group that loom large for me, I have to say.
And I've seen Buzz Osborne on stage with them before, so
Oh, really?